Hi and welcome to the first lecture on the integumentary system. This is part 1, looking at the introduction and overview of the layers of the skin. The learning objective for this section is describe the structure and function of the 4 primary tissue types within the layers of the skin. So we've just spent the last several weeks looking at the 4 basic building block tissues in the adult that make up the human body. Now we're going to begin to actually look at them in play in terms of organs and systems. And the first system we're going to be looking at is the integumentary system. Now the integumentary system starts with skin and then includes its various accessory structures. So hair, nails, glands, muscles and so on. They all make up this larger system called the integumentary system. So the tissues we just saw over the last few weeks are arranged into an organ. So the epidermis and dermis forms the organ known as skin. Skin's the largest organ in the human body, of course. While together with its accessory structures, those that we were mentioning before, they form the larger integumentary system. So where are the different tissues of the integumentary system? Well, if we look at the skin first, which is the outermost layer of the integumentary system, we see it's made up of 2 layers. It's made up of the epidermis, and then on the inside it's made up of the dermis. Now the epidermis, because it's a surface lining, it's an epithelium, and beneath that we know that under every epithelium is a layer of connective tissue, and so the dermis is made up of connective tissue. Now much deeper to the dermis we have a subcutaneous layer which is known as the hypodermis, or the subcutaneous layer or the subcutis, and that's also made up of connective tissue. And scattered throughout the skin we find the various accessory structures of the skin. So we can see some hair follicles, for example. We can see their associated sebaceous glands, and they secrete sebum onto the surface. We can see various sensory receptors which are detecting things like pain or pressure, vibration, or touch. We can see erector pili muscles, which are special smooth muscle cells which contract to help hair to stand up on end. We can see some sweat glands, and of course all throughout this we find blood vessels, and of course blood vessels within their own structure have all of the basic building block tissues associated with them as well. So in a little bit more detail now we're going to have a look at the building block layers of the skin and look at the specific details related to the tissues which are found in relation to those layers. So of course the epidermis is made up of a stratified squamous keratinized epithelium. It's the only example of keratinized epithelium in the human body, and the keratinized layer gives us a lot of protection because it's always in a dry environment and also always up against abrasion and insult from microorganisms or chemicals or things like that. Beneath the epidermis is the dermis, and we know that under every epithelium is a layer of loose connective tissue. So the first layer of the dermis is known as the papillary layer or the papillary dermis, and it's made up of a layer of loose connective tissue. Beneath that we have the reticular layer, which is the reticular dermis. This is the largest of the layers of the dermis, and it's made up of dense irregular connective tissue. So it has collagen fibres running in many different directions. It's able to withstand forces from many different directions. And we'll talk more about the specific details related to that in another section in the next lecture. And then not part of the skin, it's not a constituent of the skin but of the larger integumentary system. Beneath the epidermis and dermis we find the layer of hypodermis, which is often referred to as subcutaneous tissue or the subcutis. And that's largely made up of adipose tissue and also dense irregular connective tissue. And of course, because there's so much connective tissue, the best way to visualize connective tissue is to use a trichrome stain. So a trichrome stain uses 3 different colors to highlight different components and really help identify those building block tissues in a section. So in this section of thick skin, so it's a section taken from either the hand or the foot, the bottom of the foot, we can see that the red has stained epithelium. So the epidermis is stained on the left hand side here, And then below that we have the dermis, and the dermis is stained lots of this purpley blue colour. So all of these are the extracellular matrix fibres, so collagen and elastin. So you can see big thick bundles running in many different directions in this area. And you might see some orange here inside the blood vessels. These are red blood cells. So for whatever reason, the red blood cells attract this orange stain. So you can see big thick epidermis on the surface there. Then we have the dermis consisting of a little layer of loose connective tissue directly beneath this epithelium. Then we have this big thick bundles of collagen running in different directions for the reticular dermis. And then beneath that we have the hypodermis. And you can see lots of adipose tissue here and some thick coarse collagen bundles as well. So that's it for section 1 or part 1 of this lecture. Please proceed now to your checkpoint number 1 quiz on Milo, and I'll see you at number 2. I'll see you at part 2. Yeah, okay.